Welcome back to Logan Rando Aquascaping. Today I'm taking you guys on a tour of my entire aquascaping studio. It's been about a year since I last did one of these, and I moved into a new apartment a couple blocks from my old place in February of 2024. So it's spring of 2025 at the publishing of this video, and all my aquariums are looking pretty prime right now for the most part. So if you like this type of content, it helps out a little channel like mine. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. So without further ado, let's get started with today's full Aquascaping Studio tour. The first tank I'm going to show you in the studio is right behind my desk. So when you walk into my apartment, I have this long IKEA shelf, and then I have this UNS 35A dual all-in-one aquarium. This is an 11-gallon aquarium, and it's the longest running aquascape in my space. So I actually set this up in December of 2023, and I was actually able to move it over to my new apartment when I made the move back in February. This is the first no CO2 tank that I've actually run in my career as an aquascaper. When I initially set it up, it was pretty high maintenance, and then during the moving process, I ended up running out of CO2, and you know how that goes. Anytime you're moving, you're so busy with the process, it's physically exhausting, emotionally exhausting. I just didn't have any time to refill the CO2, and I noticed the tank wasn't any worse for the wear. So as you can see, things are looking really good. So I did trim back the Hygrophila pinintafida months ago, and without the CO2, it hasn't really bounced back, but you can see that the epiphytes, the anubias, and all the different species of Bucephalandra are just doing really well. Moving on to the next scape in my space, we're going to take a look at this IKEA shelf that I have set up. So over here on the right hand side, I have the smallest tank in my studio space. This is a UNS 5S little shallow tank, and it's actually only 2.5 gallons. And this is a fairly low maintenance tank as well. I have epiphytic plants, so a bunch of tiny little species of Bucephalandra. And then in the back, I have some microsorums, which still need to grow in a little bit and spread out. Microsorums tend to be slower growers, so it's taken some time. But this tank is just an absolute joy. It's pretty easy to keep. Little bit of green thread algae here and there, but totally manageable. And I've got a school of beautiful strawberry rasboras in here, and they're fairly colored up compared to when I first bought them months ago. And they've just got great personality. They're always hanging out up front when I'm doing a water change. They're kind of like chasing the siphon around. They're pretty aggressive. And I've got a bunch of the panda caridina shrimp in here, and you don't see them too often, but when they do pop out, it's such a treat. There's lots of hiding spaces in the nooks and crannies of the rocks, so they tend to hang out there. But this is another tank in my space that demands very little of my energy, so it's nice to have a few like that, so that when you have a few problem children tanks, then you can kind of focus your maintenance efforts on those. And I won't spend too much time on these, but sometimes folks ask me about my terrariums. You can see I have this little DOOA glass pot Shizuku. These days I exclusively work with Boost Plant and UNS, but I actually got this way back a few years ago when I was living in Portland before I had any sort of sponsorship, and it's just too beautiful not to display. So I have it planted with some epiphytes and a really beautiful carpet of Hemianthus cuba that I actually have to trim fairly frequently. And then to the left of that, I have a tiny little Worx Iota, and that's got some Juncus repens in the background, and then it's got some tiny Bucephalandra up front. Again, super easy to maintain. I just clean up the sand every once in a while. Now let's take a look at the newest aquascape in my studio space. This is my Iwagumi, and if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I just love a good Iwagumi. I kind of have the mentality where my space is not a proper space without an Iwagumi, so this is that. It contains a bunch of beautiful Frodo stone that I spent quite a bit of money acquiring, and it's fully carpeted with Eleocharis bellum. So I actually only set this tank up about 5-6 weeks ago as of the publishing of this video, so it has a lot more growing in to do. But you can see the Eleocharis is rooted nicely, and it's beginning to spread out via its runners. I really didn't plant it as dense as I usually do on day one because I wanted to see, okay, how little can I plant and how fast will these plants spread? And I'm happy to say that Eleocharis, when happy, tends to spread out pretty quick. Takes a couple weeks to get established, but I bet in like a month, 2 months, this is just going to be completely lush and full of plant life. So it's a lot of work right now. It's in that diatom phase. where a couple times a week I'm really having to scrub the glass and the rocks, but things will stabilize eventually. And once the plants are really covering every inch of the soil, I think this is going to be a joy to keep. But I gotta add some fish soon. What fish would you add to this tank? It's a UNS 60U, so it's about 20 gallons, and I really don't want to destroy the sense of scale, so I want to go with something small. I would love to hear some of your recommendations. Now let's take a look at the tank to the left of that. This is my UNS 45U, which is a 9-gallon aquarium. And this is another tank that is virtually no maintenance. It's just totally established. It had a rocky start, you know, lots of algae, but things are just really great in this aquarium. And there's some CPDs in here that love hanging out up front, and just a variety of colorful plants. In the background, I've got the Ludwigia Super Red, which even without CO2 displays some vibrant red colors. So if you're in the market for a pretty instantaneously impactful red plant, highly recommend this one. And then I've got a bunch of epiphytes in the midground and a really thick carpet of Hemianthus cuba up front. So it's super happy and tends to bounce back really nicely from a trimming. I moved this one from the old apartment as well, and it is just absolutely thriving, and it's really a joy to keep. And it provides me with a lot of trimmings that I can kind of spread out to my terrariums or give away to local hobbyists. So really enjoy this one. And the final aquarium in my studio space is one that I actually can't show you in detail because I created this exclusively for the Boost Plant channel, but I can show it to you guys from a distance. This is the UNS 90S, and it's a 48-gallon shallow tank, and it's the first Dutch-style aquarium I've ever created. So if you want to see an entire playlist dedicated to what I did here, how it's developing, how I trim, go ahead and check out the Boost Plant channel. Lots of videos over there on this tank. So that concludes the studio tour as of April 2025. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I've got a lot of shorts that have been coming out on the channel lately, lots of comedy bits that people seem to be really enjoying, but I've also got a lot of aquascaping videos coming too. But I would love to hear from you guys. What type of content do you want to see from me in 2025? Tips, tricks, general guides, full setup videos. It helps me a lot to know what you want to watch since this community is still really small. So I appreciate you commenting and letting me know. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Logan Rando with Logan Rando Aquascaping, and I'll see you guys and gals in the next one. Take care.